Hello, everyone. Welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. This week, I'm joined by our usual co-host AJ and Drew. How you doing, guys?
Doing
Yeah,
well.
very well, very well.
Good to see you, Ash.
We're delighted to be joined by a couple of guests from a very popular Man United podcast,
Yep, United and everything football.
Kwame and Kwame. Just
hmm
to make it a little less confusing, we have Kwame, who's over in Germany, and Kwame in Ghana. Who are here to have a quick preview of the game that tonight and talk about their hopes for United's season. Hopefully we should be in for a good run. So let's talk about it, guys. A new football season is upon us. We'll ignore last Saturday's Community Shield because I know that you probably don't want to talk about it. But a new football season started. Premier League season started. I think you guys have got quite a bit to be excited about this season. You know, a new sort of period in Man United's history. Uh, what are your sort of expectations for the season, just personally? I'll start with Kwame in Germany with that.
Ah, okay, so we had a. Are we allowed to swear on the show?
Yeah, knock yourself
Yeah,
out.
knock yourself
Go
out, man.
for it.
We wouldn't expect anything less from United fans.
We had a shit season last season. We came eighth. It's never happened in the Premier League before. We came eighth, but then we salvaged something at the end of the day. We won the FA Cup, and yeah, put a bright spot on things, but it wasn't good enough. So this season we have to make up for it. We have to get back into top four contention. Let me just put it that way.
How about yourself, Kwame?
Well, it's good. Kwame ended up from where we ended up last season, and we there was a bit of confusion as to whether Eric Ten Hag should continue as coach or
Mm.
whether he should be replaced. It really got into a lot of fans. I mean, it was more fans were behind the manager based off on what he had done. I mean, winning the FA Cup, although the team didn't play very well in the course of the season, including losing very sadly to Fulham in that last minute goal that Fulham Alex Iwobi scored at Old Trafford. So generally, we it was a good feeling winning the FA Cup, but there were issues to address. I mean, getting our sporting structure right. We found a way to get Dan Ashworth, our new sporting director, in. We already had Jason Wilcox in. Omar Barada, our new CEO, came in. So the atmosphere and the feeling kind of changed. And the decision was made to keep up with Eric Ten Hag. So we all focus our attention to the transfer market to see the kind of purchases we'll be making, the kind of structure, what kind of approach the structure was going to take. And we now have an idea which direction we are going. And we've watched what we've been doing in preseason, trying to rectify some of the issues that happened, including Andres Pereira telling us he had so much space in midfield playing against Man United the other time in Old Trafford. So
That's a good one.
trying to address all of these situations. And the feeling looks good. I mean, if you watch the Community Shield game, I'm not so disappointed. I'm not so disappointed. It's penalties, and anything happens when you play during penalties. We won the last two penalties at Wembley, so we're not too bothered. But the quality of our play on the day really excited me, and it's filled me with a lot more hope going into the new season.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. My microphone was playing up a bit there. Obviously, you guys have had a big summer in terms of obviously signings and players coming in. A few players sort of leaving as well. What are your general thoughts on your transfer business that you've made so far?
Which of the comments? Let me go first. I
So I
it's
tell you
been
what, make it easier, right? We have Kwame Germany and Kwame Ghana.
Yes.
Yeah, because
we
otherwise, if
can
we
work
just
with
say
that.
Kwame and Kwame, people could think we're plugging a law firm.
Let's work with that.
Yeah,
Uh, our summer business has been exciting. It's been super exciting. Uh, it's been underwhelming in terms of big names, but then I think we're just making the right kind of signings in terms of profiles that we need. We've needed to reinforce our defense because last season, if anything at all, everybody could see we're struggling defensively. not just in terms of the structure and everything. I don't want to go into the tactics and everything with Eric Ten Hag, but in terms of personnel, we're really let down in terms of injuries. So reinforcing the back four was quite necessary. We've brought in Lenny Yoro, somebody who was courted by Real Madrid. I did not expect us to be able to get that over the line, honestly. I didn't have any hope of actually making that signing. But some way, somehow, we pulled it off. We paid a little bit over the top, but we needed to do that. We just needed to do that. I mean, if you go head to head with Real Madrid for any player, you have to do more to get that player. And some way, somehow, we pulled it off. Matthijs de Ligt is someone that Erik Ten Hag knows very well. I just saw that they've just announced him officially like not too long ago. So it's a great signing, excellent signing. If only he can stay fit, that would be another huge plus. Mazraoui, I'm not so confident about because Wan-Bissaka has an attribute that is quite unique. I don't know what Mazraoui is particularly special at, but then he's also someone that Eric Ten Hag has actually worked with. We brought in Zexi to replace Anthony Martial. It's sort of a like for like, to be honest. I think they're the same kind of player, and it's markedly different from Højlund. So I guess that also makes sense. And we're looking to reinforce the midfield area. So it's been exciting so far. It's gone quite better than I actually thought it would, because I was quite nervous about how Ineos gets off to any sort of start in their trying to reshape Manchester United. But it's been quite exciting.
What about yourself, Kwame?
Okay, so for me, we've addressed some key areas. Still a lot more, just a few business more to do, especially in the defensive midfield area. We only have Casemiro in there, obviously advanced in age, so the expectations of him having to play for longer periods, and it's going to be a big season because there's a new format for the Europa League Championship, 38 Premier League games. There is the League Cup, there is the FA Cup, and the competitions have expanded. So it looks as if we would need a lot more reinforcement in midfield, and it looks, and it's one area that we are trying our best to get a player in there. We've been linked to Manuel Ugarte of PSG, and we are hoping that Fulham brings us money so we can give you Scott McTominay, and then we can find a lot more other midfielders. It's very, very important. Please, Fulham, talk to your executives. Just add the 5 million
Make
to
it
it. Make
happen.
it
Make it
25,
happen.
make it 25 million and come for our midfielder Scott McTominay so we can get a lot more other midfielders into the fold. So we are doing our very best to reinforce that department. And one area I wish and I pray and hope that we reinforce is our left back. Just before this recording, we got the news that our first choice left back, Luke Shaw, has picked up an injury. And the last time Luke Shaw played for Manchester United was in February against Luton Town. And for a club of our stature and for a club of our size, we already have Tyra Malacia also injured and hasn't played football for over a year. And we are not too expectant of when he's supposed to, return back into action. Although he's recovering, we are not too sure. So I feel that one area that the club should be focusing on has to be on the left back or the left side of the defense, because Martinez Licha also suffered a lot of injuries last season. I'm not too sure how he's going to fare going into the season. The injury scare started 2 seasons ago. He couldn't play enough games last season, and I'm not too sure what to expect. So, in order not to put ourselves in a bit of jeopardy, it's very important that we get a defender who can double up as a left back or a left back or a left centre back to help us deal with that particular situation. So, it's one area I'm looking forward for us to reinforce. Generally, if we're able to do that, I'll call that a very, very good window for our club.
If you don't manage to sign a left back, I'd imagine that at some point in the window we will see Martinez, Euro, and De Ligt all in the back line, with Martinez probably playing at left back at some point, is how I imagine it. But equally, Manchester United have got this track record, and it is actually a record that I think they intend to keep, of promoting a youth player to the starting lineup basically every season of the Premier League and Premier League's existence. So it's very possible that you might promote one of your upcoming left backs. I've heard good things about one of them. I can't remember his name. Yep, yeah, that's the chap. You might find that he gets promoted into the squad sooner than you expect, as opposed to spending more money on the position. Because realistically, what other position are you likely to promote someone? CDM? I don't think you've got one on the books that's worth promoting yet, do you?
There is a name, Toby Collier. He's a young English boy, 20-year-old. It's kind of a prospect, but then, yeah, there's a lot of pressure bringing in. See, that's the thing. I'm not always comfortable with banking your hopes on the kids because when your team is not in a good place, it's kind of tough for kids to actually come through. It's quite exceptional that someone like Kobe Mainu and Garnacho were able to do it under the circumstances last season. But you don't have to always bank on that, to be honest. You have to go into the market and sort of fix your problems. That's how I see it. That's why I think we should.
Of course, but you always do seem to. Even looking back at some of the ones that aren't necessarily as big as we expected them to be, you've got the likes of Adnan Januzaj, who did wonders for a season, and a few other names similarly to that. So
I'm
I've
sorry,
always,
but I can't believe the club of the Busby Babes and that produced the best midfield in Europe out of Giggs, Beckham, Scholes. Admittedly, you bought Keane. They were all kids. I mean, some of the talent you've had come through your academy. Mainu's been your latest example of a superstar. Is now probably a fixture in the England midfield. And you're United. I cannot believe you haven't got some proper talent in your under 21s that you could promote. And I understand. I mean, it's nervous putting kids in, but with profit and sustainability rules as they are now, surely you got to be looking to your academies more. I mean, before we were on air, we have a WhatsApp group, us boys that do Ful-on, and we were talking about some of the names that have come through and are now have been assigned first team squad numbers, and we're quite excited about it. I mean, obviously, the spending power between the two clubs. I mean, you're massive. Yeah,
That's
you're one of the most powerful football clubs in the world. Probably one of the most bet laden as well. But I mean, I must imagine you've got some talent there. You've got to have. I just can't see it.
let me address this. So, for some time now, we've had to revamp our academy. We had issues with the players that were breaking through, which were not of so much quality. So, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, we were not doing very well under 21s. We're not doing very well under 18s. We had to send a lot. We were even relegated in under 21s until there's a whole new rule change that there's no more relegation in that competition. But we were relegated. So we would have to go through a lot of restructuring because we're losing a lot of talent to Manchester City and the surrounding teams in that area. Man City were actually picking a lot more of the quality players around. You could see the likes of Phil Foden, Oscar Bob now. We saw Oscar Bob and the kind of football he was playing. And traditionally, these players should be attracted to Manchester United rather than Man City. But it looks as if there was a shift, and we had to find ways to correct that situation. And we've had to get in a lot more players into the academy until that break or until that rule change came. We're able to get in Alejandro Garnacho in there, who has become a mainstay in the club. Hansen Aaron came in. Fernandez from Real Madrid. We had a couple of players coming overseas. All of these players, Hannibal Mejbri, we had a lot of these players coming in and then getting some of these youngsters. Harry Amaz getting from Watford, Toby Collier that we mentioned, we got him from Brighton and Hove Albion. So it looks as if we are now trying to, deal with the situation of improving the academy and getting it working a lot more better. So that's how I will address the point there about our academy and all of that. So we are now trying to get the production very well. We've got some exciting talent. Just so you know, we've just signed Chidobe Martin, one of the hot prospects from Arsenal, because yes, because we have a proven record of giving a pathway for these players to come into the first team to shine. So we are getting there, and obviously we'll be getting a lot more quality players to come in to fill certain positions.
Yep. I mean, it probably hasn't helped your case in terms of that local conflict between you and Man City that some of your gym equipment and facilities are older than some of the players, which obviously has been addressed by a few of your ex-players, Cristiano being the main one. But with that in mind, it'll be interesting to see who you guys promote because there'll be at least one name. In terms of the upcoming fixture, though, I suppose we should probably move on to talking about this game that we're facing. We're obviously hoping for a repeat of last season, popping up to Old Trafford and watching your roof and your goal leak some for us.
It's fixed.
So obviously we're gonna break in. We'll start talking about the game the opening game of the season tonight, which I think most of us are really excited about. I think it's impossible not to go into a Premier League season and not be excited about the possibilities, because even we can say we've got a perfect away record so far, and it's great. Because
There's the
we don't
curse.
We're
obviously
unbeaten.
There's the curse.
we
We're
don't get
unbeaten.
that.
Oh God, there it is.
I think for us, we
We're
have
not
to hope
bottom of
that
the
we
league.
can.
Hooray!
Yeah, yeah. We look at the game and we go, we know the game we had to have at Old Trafford last year. We relied on you guys to be slightly off. It was one of those days where I think Leno had an outstanding game and you were a bit off the mark, and we just took our chances, which doesn't happen for us a lot.
So I think that's a little bit harsh. We were well worth the win.
Yeah.
Oh no,
That's
I
actually
don't
true.
mean it in the sense of that, but I mean it in the sense of we know that for us to go to Old Trafford and win, we need games like last year where we are absolutely outstanding all over the park, and a couple of their players drop
Oh yeah, that's
like
fair.
bombs because
Yeah. That's fair.
we know what it is. For yourselves, obviously, De Ligt's now signed, and he will probably be in the squad on Friday, I'd imagine, because mainly just because of injury problems you guys have, he'll be in the squad at least,
Yeah.
let alone starting. Let's be realistic about what our expectations of the game are. We know we're not going to ask you guys to tell us by how many goals you're going to beat us by, because we know what it's like. But what what do you feel? How, when you go into an opening game of the season at Man United, first game at home, all eyes are going to be on United on Friday night. What are your feelings and how you're going to deal with that, and how you think the game will go? Kwame in Germany,
Kwame
sorry.
Germany. Yeah, so it's Kwame Germany. All right, so first game of the season, we've had some stinkers on the opening day over the past decade. I remember us losing to, was
Good
it
to know.
Swansea? Swansea, was it about a
Didn't you get
decade
turned
ago?
over by Brighton last year on the opening day? Was it Brighton?
That was
No,
two
that was
seasons
two
ago.
two
Too
seasons ago.
sorry, I
Two
apologise, Kwame
seasons.
Yeah,
Ghana.
yeah. Last season we beat Wolves at home on opening day. Yeah, so we've had a couple of stinkers, but it doesn't happen too often. I don't think we've lost too many games against Fulham, especially at Old Trafford. I looked up the stats before I came on,
Last
and
time was we beat you 3-1, like about 15 years, well, no, 20 odd years ago or something. I know because I
Junichi
was there.
Namoto.
in
Yeah.
2003,
I was sitting in the
yeah,
United
a
end.
long time ago. Yeah, long time ago. So it doesn't happen too often. So I don't expect
No.
it to happen now. And with the buzz around the club right now in terms of the signings and the new management team and everything, all eyes will be on Old Trafford. I think we'll turn you guys over. I expect us to turn you guys over. So yeah, should be
We're we're
comfortable.
ho- we're hoping for the very epitome of recent Manchester United, in that what you expect doesn't happen. Like, we'll be banking on it, because Manchester United over the past decade, every time you thought they were going to do well, they've had a stinker, and every time you thought they're going to have a stinker, they've done well. They are the bookies' best friends. Like, you put money on Liverpool, you lose 4 on the bounce, you put money on Liverpool to turn you over, and you turn Liverpool over, and it's like it's
You know,
you are the
that's
bookie's
that's
best
you
that,
friend.
can't
that's
predict
how
you can't predict United anymore.
that's for the coaches that have come. We've had the Louis Van Gaal Red Army. We've had the Ole Tricky Reds. We've had the Ten Hag Tricky Reds as well. So it answers your question. Very tricky. We are very unpredictable, and you don't know what to expect. But going into this game, I'm pretty confident. I've watched our team in preseason. I actually watched every preseason game. I've watched the game in the Community Shield. The approach play has been better. The press has improved. We are backing up our press. We are not pressing and leaving gaps in behind. If you watched our game against Manchester City, we went with a very solid game plan. We ceded a width to them. We pushed them in a box. All they needed to do was push the ball to the wide areas, and we could deal with them. And you could see that there is a clear approach to the way we want to play our game. Um, Obviously, playing against Fulham, no disrespect to Fulham, we don't expect Fulham to dominate on the ball more than we should do. When you are playing City, we know City are very good on the ball. We know. City would always have the ball. But every United fan would want United to dominate against Fulham, at least with a fair share of the ball and trying to create enough opportunities to score. And I've watched a lot of our games we've played during preseason, and we've created a lot more opportunities. My problem, however, has been the fact that we found it very difficult converting some of these chances. Against City, we should have been scoring like 3 goals, especially in that second half. I can count the Marcus Rashford chance. I can bring in the Amad Diallo chance that he set up for Mason Mount, who didn't back it up. And then another chance for Marcus Rashford in the second half created by Leandro Garnacho. Scott McTominay also had an opportunity. So we are creating chances. In a game against Liverpool in preseason, Liverpool beat us 3-0. But if you watch that game, you'll clearly see the amount of chance United created. So if we are to find our scoring boots on a day, on Friday, I believe the truth is I've not seen too much of Fulham, and that's where I think you guys come in to make us understand. I know you've won your game. You beat Benfica in your preseason game, and you've also won another game there. I think the last preseason game, yes, and I've not seen losing a player like Palinia. Also, I mean, it's probably to our advantage because he's one player that does a lot of work in midfield. Um, Ash doesn't want to think about Palinia leaving. Well, yes, it has to do with the personnel, the quality of the personnel backing up the press. Now, see, you want to press high up the pitch. When you
Mhm.
press, the defenders have to squeeze so that they can be able to close the gap between the midfield because we attack with about 5 players. If you there were so many infographics showing in that game. I don't know if you guys had opportunity to see where we had a lot
Mhm.
more players up front and our
Mhm.
defenders were of age backing off because they were not players who could run. And anytime the ball is played in behind, they find it very difficult to deal with the balls being playing in behind. So they
In
always
behind,
leave
yeah.
this gap in midfield. And that is where Pereira came in to say that he has not played with a team where he has had so much space because the players were not backing up the press because clearly they were a liability running or tracking back to be able to cover up spaces.
You
So
can't
if we are
teach old
going
dogs new tricks, can you, Kwame?
exactly because I remember we had Johnny Evans and we had Harry
Harry
Maguire in
Maguire, yeah.
and it's always very difficult to play that kind of way. Our issue with the coach at the time was that when playing such a game you need to look at the strength of your players. But Kwame also has a theory that if we are going to play like this going forward, you need to force the system to work some way somehow, such that when you get the quality of players that you want, they can come in and then just slot in and play that kind of football. Fortunately for us, in this preseason, we've had a few of these oldies trying their very best to play by this approach. But we also have Lisandro Martinez coming back, a player who knows the system or knows the approach quite very well. If we are fortunate to have Delict starting, he's also another player who also understands the system very, very well. So what we will be looking to resolve or what we'll be looking to do this season, every United fan, every football fan will be looking out for would be whether we are able to back up the press, squeeze, because we are still going to play transition football, attack high up the pitch, press, and then see if we can win the ball high up and then quickly make an attack out of that. So that's basically what we are going to do. So we'll be watching out to see how quickly we're able to, go by the game plan and then score some goals out of that.
Yeah, I mean, what I think the tactic that you were trying to employ at Old Trafford last season would have worked against most traditional mid-table teams that would be looking to play the ball in behind your defence. Because your defence sat that little bit deeper, it would have stopped that from happening. What you failed to recognise is whether or not it was your coaching, whether or not it was your manager, whether or not it was just the team on the day, is that Fulham didn't have a lot of pace in behind, and we naturally play out from our midfield. So when you left that huge sinking gap in the midfield for Pereira, Lukic, etc. to fill, you've played into their hands. You've basically gone, here, go and do what you want to do, go and do what you like to do, and you got punished for it. I don't see you making the same mistake this time, whether or not it means that the whole team sits a little bit deeper and gives us a little bit more of the ball across our defence, but in front of you where we won't do much with it, or whether or not it means that you squeeze us completely, as you're alluding to, which is what you would expect because you expect to have more of the ball against us, especially at home, which I think is fair. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last season, and if it is a repeat of last season, I think it's a tactical failure from you guys, frankly, because
I agree with most of that, but building on something that Kwame Garner said, if you look at our winning goal, yeah, it's quite right about the space between their defence and their press. But the other thing is the personnel. They weren't quick. And it was Adama Traore that literally blew their midfield away. And they had no one. I mean, if you think about their midfield, you have Ericsson, who's wrong side of 30. You have Casemiro, who's reached the top of the mountain, is coming down the other side now. Fernandez, Kwame, Germany. How old is he now? 28, 29? He's 28. And with the greatest respect to all three of them, you've got no one who's got the explosive power there of Adama Traore. And when you leave the spaces that Kwame Garner was talking about in the gap between your press and your defence, yeah, and as AJ said, we play through the midfield. There was no one there to keep up with him, and you got completely stretched. And one of the things that I found quite odd about the high line, as you put it, you were playing. Maguire's not a high line centre back. He wants the ball in front of him. He doesn't want to be turned around facing his own keeper. Martinez, as you quite rightly pointed out, Kwame Garner, he knows how ETH wants to play. And, I don't mean to disrespect Maguire here, but Martinez is a good footballer. He can play football. He can play football. He can read the game. He can pass. Okay, he might be as big as a pint of milk, but he's a good footballer, and you cannot take that away from him. Yeah, he's a fantastic player, but it was the structure and the personnel. You just didn't have the athleticism to be able to close those massive gaps you were leaving, and it was all there. It was all there to see in the second goal when Traore just basically blew your midfield away.
Yeah, with that in mind, we're reminiscing a lot about last season, but you'd expect us to, considering we won the game, and it's on our channel. Let's talk a little bit more about the game. Who's someone that you think we should be watching out for? Who's your danger man that you think that
Half
Fulham
the
should be
team, innit?
worried about? Well, yeah, from our
You should be
perspective,
worried
it'll be
about everybody.
from our perspective, it'll be
Five of
half
them,
the
at
from
least.
our perspective, it'll be half the team. But for them, who's someone that they expect to perform this game?
All right, so all throughout preseason, there was this kid. Do you guys know him already? Amad Diallo. He made a name for himself last
Oh
season in
yeah,
the
your
game
winger.
against was it Liverpool in the cup, and he's never looked back since. He looked very exciting in preseason. It looks like he's ready for like high level football now. He made a name for himself at, was it, which team did he, Sunderland in the Championship? Yeah. Yeah, and then he came back last season with high hopes of actually breaking into the team, but he got injured. He's always had injuries, and then he had injuries again. But the second half of last season, he came into his own with those big game performances. And yes,
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 that's
same,
it.
Was that the
same
second
lad.
yellow
Yeah,
nonsense?
Yeah, second
yeah.
That
yellow
was
for taking his
Oh,
shirt off.
Gordon Bennett.
He and in the community shield, he sort of stepped up. He played very, very well. In the first half, when we were struggling, he was the go-to guy. He was the one who was making things happen. He looked excited. He's got a good touch. He's got pace. He's got trickery. He looks sharp, and I hope he actually starts the season on the right hand side. So he's the one that excites me. But then I expect a lot from almost everybody. Rashford needs to have a better season than he did last season. I hope he starts a centre forward this time because in the Community Shield we started without a striker. But then I think we need to bring Zexi in. No, no, no. Zexi's not injured actually. He's just not. He was just not fit to start the game, match fit. And we just have one striker now. So imagine you play him in the Community Shield and he gets injured, and we start the season without a striker, just as we did last season without a striker, and it actually just threw us off from the very start. So I expect him to start, and I expect him to, whenever a striker starts like that for a big club, he wants to make a mark like right away, get off the mark really early, settle the nerves and everything. So yeah, probably he banks in a goal or two, and then yeah, move on.
Fair,
We'll move on from there.
fair enough. High hopes for the lads. Who are you most worried about from the Fulham squad?
Want to take that comment?
Muniz. He came in, yeah, he came in last season, and I think he got a lot of goals. He's one dangerous player that we would have to be weary of going into the game. Uh, he's Brazilian, right? He's got a lot of. He's very explosive, and he actually made an impression when he came into the squad, and a lot of us were getting him into our FPL because we knew he was going to score a goal or
Oh,
two.
he was banging in the goals. He was banging in the points.
And so he's one player that I'm looking at. Also, I'll be paying attention to our very own boy Andres Pereira. From set plays, he tends to create a lot more opportunities. I would have to be very, very close to him. And from your wide areas, Timothy Castagna and also Robinson on the left side is one player that I'll be looking at. So uh, Alex Iwobi also posed a lot of problems when he played against us at Old Trafford. Adama Traore is always handful for defenders. I don't know about his end product, but he's always
You
handful
see,
for a lot of.
you
Yeah,
see, Drew. You said we were worried about all of their players. It seems like they're worried about all of ours.
of course, of course. And you've got a very. Let me reference something. Fulham have always posed us problems, although we've come out winning. I can reference a game we played before we went to the World Cup. That Alejandro Garnacho had to score that winning goal um, um, before we went for the World Cup. That last minute goal. Fulham posed us a lot of troubles.
Yeah, I've seen the last two visits of United to Fulham, and both times you shouldn't have won.
And it's been very, very difficult for United. The other game I'll reference is the FA Cup that Alexandra Mitrovic and your whole team
Oh,
decided
don't
to
talk
do
about it.
everything.
We don't talk about that game. The game never
everyone lost
happened.
their mind
Okay.
on that day.
For 70
Everyone
minutes, everything
decided
was fine, and then Mitrovic had a
so
meltdown.
it's fair to say that two of your three visits to Old Trafford have seen you causing us a lot more problems. So we've got every reason to be weary of the entire team because the coach at the helm of affairs is a very good coach. Marco Silva is a very good coach. We've seen what he can do.
The one that always sticks in my mind is the 3-3 draw, where you guys
David
broke the
Moyes,
record. Yeah, you broke the record for
David Moyes, the
crosses in a single
crosses.
game.
We had
Was it seven?
about 81 crosses on that day, if I remember.
Yeah,
Yes, I
That game
remember
looked like
so
a
well.
simulation. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
I remember. I remember that event so well, and I know where I was watching that game. I couldn't believe it. So anytime you guys, I remember David Moyes scoring and then shouting to someone in the stands. I don't know who he was talking to, but he was so happy when we were able to equalize. I don't know what was happening. So Fulham have always caused us problems anytime they've been at Old Trafford. In the last two, in two of the last three meetings that you guys have had. So you have every reason to be weary. And it's the first game. There will be pressure on the coach Eric Ten Hag. People will be wanting to see the kind of results and the kind of football we play on the day. So there's going to be a bit more pressure. Fulham, on the other hand, will be relaxed. I mean, we'll be able to, play the way they want, because the odds will be that Fulham lose the game. But United, on the other hand, are expected to win. The underdogs are almost relaxed and are able to, play their game, because clearly, I'm sure you guys wouldn't have so much expectations of having to come to Old Trafford to win again back to back, because clearly you would have expected, or you would have,
No, I
yeah.
think you're right. I think
So
we saw it last year in an awful lot of games we played against, the big six as they call it. We did, we may not have won a lot of away games last year against big six clubs, but we always put in great efforts. The game at Old Trafford, obviously we won. The game at Tottenham we did really well. The game at Chelsea was scrappy and crap, but we were playing against Chelsea, so it was always scrappy and crap. But we put in a great performance at Arsenal as well. So it's one of those ones, isn't it, that for us, I think with the pressure off, we can let our hair down a little bit, and we know that we have certain players that when there's a little less pressure on their shoulders and they can just express themselves. And we saw it last year, I think, with Iwobi at Old Trafford. Iwobi last year at Old Trafford put in one of the best performances I've seen from a player in a long time, and I think it's because it's one of those, we've got nothing to lose. It's a nothing to lose. If we lose the opening game of the season against United at Old Trafford, nobody goes, "Well, that's us relegated." That's it. But if you don't win the game, you will have fans going, "Well, that's the championship, over, isn't it?" So yeah, I get in, and and we appreciate that. Just one last thing, guys. Obviously, before we wrap up this warning, this episode, sorry, is obviously we want to get predictions from you for the game. Now I know you guys try to be a little bit respectful with the scorelines, please, because I know you're very confident. Um, but I want to get your predictions on the scoreline on Friday, but I also want to get an honest prediction on where you'll finish in the league this season. Um, so not necessarily your hopes. 'Cause I know you're both going to have hopes you're going to win the league. I want head over heart result on Friday and where you're going to finish in the league. So Kwame, Germany, result on Friday and where you think you'll finish in the league this year.
I think we win 3-1. I'm going 3-1. I don't think we can keep a clean sheet because we never keep clean sheets. But then I think we'll score goals. 3-1 United. And where we would finish in the league, I'm expecting us to finish in the top four this time, but then probably third. I'd pick third. Because, see, I think Arsenal are better than us. City definitely better than us. I'm not so sure what Liverpool will be seeing this season because nobody really knows what Slot is all about yet in the league. And just like he may be a better manager than David Moyes, I get it. But when someone is there for a long time, as Klopp was there for a very long time, and there was change, sometimes, just sometimes, things just don't work out the way it's supposed to. So I'm not so sure about where Liverpool finish. I'd place them probably fourth and would finish third. I don't expect an Aston Villa to do an Aston Villa. I don't. Spurs are always Spurs. So yeah, top four, probably third position. Yeah.
okay, so I think we win 3-0. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. We are not going to allow Fulham any goal, unfortunately. Adam Traore will come and do his bits, but we are not going to allow that. So so 3-0 on the day. Also, on where we finish, I'm also quite realistic. I think we will finish fourth. I admit the City are better, Arsenal are better. But Liverpool have got a bit of a stable team. Um, Slots. I've watched a few of their preseason games and they've looked better. They actually just lost one of the preseason games, and that was the early ones. They didn't have a lot of the players, so and you've seen you see the quality of football they are playing. They are super efficient. They've got Salah, they've got Jota, they've got. If these players are to stay fit, I think Liverpool will finish third ahead of us, and we'll finish fourth. That's my realistic season's expectations.
Okay, cool. And here's my bit. This is where we have a bit of fun. We're going to predict the scoreline on Friday and where we think you are going to finish this season as well. So, AJ, what do you think the scoreline will be on Friday, and where do you think Man United are going to finish this season?
I think the scoreline will be 2-2. I think both of us have transitioning defences. Whether or not they start their new boys or not, they haven't got a foundation of a back line that hasn't been chopped and changed. And I think that will cause them some trouble, especially in the first game of the season. And we're always up for these big games. And equally, us being a little bit leaky and transitioning our defence as well might cause us some trouble. In terms of where Manchester United will finish the season, I think maybe fifth or sixth. I think it won't be a showing of. I don't think it'll be a negative showing of fifth or sixth. I think they'll miss out on the top four by maybe 6 points at most. I don't think it'll be like demoralizing like they had last season. But I think with just the fact that it depends. It depends. If you again find yourself in the back end of the season in fifth place, but in a semi-final or a final of a cup, you're going to prioritize the cup again. Especially the manager's going to prioritize the cup because he knows the cup will keep him in a job. So there's those things to consider. But I think fifth or sixth personally. I think the top four won't be a top four we expect this season. I don't think Liverpool or United will be in the top four, and I don't think Chelsea absolutely won't be. But that's something we can discuss at another time if we ever meet up again and maybe do a little league prediction or something. But yeah,
What
fifth
about
or
yourself,
sixth.
Drew? What about
I
yourself, Drew?
don't agree that United are going to keep a clean sheet. I think they've got they still haven't sorted out defensively in terms of their team, the structure, and I'm talking 1 through 11 isn't where it needs to be. They've brought in quite a few players. They haven't. They're not going to have time to gel. I think they'll hit their stride, but I don't think it will be off the bat. However, having said that, I still expect them to win. I think they'll score at least twice, but I think we'll score once. Where United are going to finish? Well, I actually applaud them for keeping Ten Hag because I think that what they need is stability. And if they back in with players that are used to his system, well, they've got Martinez, they've now brought in Delict, however you pronounce his name. I think they'll do all right. I mean, it's not so much about them; it's a lot of the uncertainty. We've already talked about slot. No one knows because Liverpool. I think is it right? Liverpool still have AJ. You'll know. Kwame, AJ's our stats guy and he's all the details guy. Liverpool still haven't bought anyone, have they?
No,
No, not
not
officially.
officially. It was
Chelsea,
Liverpool and Fulham, but Fulham have got players in now. So
we've started buying people. Chelsea have pretty much bought everyone, but they still suck.
Chelsea bought anyone in London who can kick a ball.
Yeah. Tottenham, as you've quite rightly pointed out, Tottenham are Tottenham, and they've always got the soft underbelly. So I don't think top four is beyond United. A lot of it depends on how the team gels and whether. And I don't think you're going to. I don't think you're going to struggle to score goals. I still have doubts about your defensive structure, and I'm not just talking about your back four. And until those questions have been answered, and it's not just a question of personnel. I'm talking about Kwame Garner, what you were talking about, the overall structure of your team. Until that's been answered, I'm not entirely sure. It could be top four, but as AJ says, you could make an argument for it to be no higher than 6th or 7th. So, I mean, I know that sounds like a bit of a cop out. You've got the potential of getting to the Champions League, but I just think you've got some real big questions still to answer. That's all. But I think United win on Friday night. I think they score at least twice, but I don't think they keep a clean sheet. Don't think they keep a clean sheet at all.
Okay, and I'm going to be super brave, and I'm going to say I reckon the scoreline will be 3-2 on Friday. I think United win 3-2. I think that what Drew says is true. I think there's an awful lot of
When you said you were going to be
uncertainty.
brave, I thought you meant you were going to put us
Well,
to
I'm being
win.
brave because I'm putting us down to score 2 goals. Like you have. I'm a Fulham fan, mate. Pessimism is my middle name, right? We're scoring 2 goals in my prediction. Yeah, the only 2 goals we'll score away all season, and they'll probably both be Onana own goals, like knowing our luck. So that'll be that. But I think I think I agree with both of your optimisms to think that you can get into Champions League this year. I think that Man City and Arsenal's squads are just outstanding squads at the moment. I think any football fan from any football club around the world looks at those squads and they go, that's impressive. As they should be, both playing Champions League comfortably for the last couple of years and building those squads exactly where they should be at. I then place you in that line of clubs that can either come third, fourth, fifth, or sixth, and I think that's where that you guys could be. It's hard to say where Chelsea are going to be come start of the season because they bought anyone with a heartbeat and a pulse who remotely goes anywhere near Southwest London. So it's hard to say even how they're going to get a 25-man squad out of the 85 players they have. But it's one of those things. And you look at Tottenham, as Drew says, they have a very soft underbelly, even with a striker now that I think they needed last season. They're still a bit soft, I think, at the back. So I don't see them being there. It's for me, your competition for third and fourth place is between Villa and maybe even Newcastle. But I think that realistically, being confident for you getting Champions League football isn't too much of a stretch. So I'm going to be confident for you and say I agree and think you'll finish fourth.
I would like to caveat mine by saying you'll finish fifth, and this is throwing it out there. You'll finish fifth, and then City will be slapped with their point deduction and get relegated, and then you'll go up to fourth.
Oh, we're all looking forward to that.
Well, the bookie.
Hey, look,
the
we
bookie-
were
the
looking
bookies
we
seem-
were looking forward to Chelsea being liquidated when Abramovich got kicked out, and look what happened there.
Yeah.
Fair point. Money
Yeah.
talks.
Well, to be fair, the bookies seem to think that something is going on with City because they slashed the odds of City getting relegated from 5,000 to 1 to 25 to 1,
They could get relegated,
and
And
news
the
did
hearing
break.
actually starts next month.
Hmm?
The hearing actually
hearing,
starts
yeah.
next month.
Yeah,
Hearing.
the news broke that the hearing starts and it will be concluded within 2025. So whether or not that's concluded before the end of this season or concluded at the beginning of next season, it's going to be concluded at some point next year. So
I think they're saying the verdict comes out in January, and then City will most likely appeal it. And then the appeal process takes like 3 months. So by the end of
The
the
amount they've
season,
spent on lawyers, they've got some of the most high-priced legal talent this country has.
they were paying more for an individual lawyer than Kevin De Bruyne's wage. So
whoa.
it says something.
No, it also
Well,
says they're
we're
hiding
hoping-
something. It also says they're hiding
Well,
something for sure.
Look, we hope for football's sake that the 115 charges some stick, because we know that there's no way a club can go from basically being Fulham in North East England and then suddenly winning
Northwest
everything
Ash.
and buying everything. Like it is as simple as that, isn't it? So if I think for football's sake, we need City to get done, and then we need them to also in with them getting done, a certain director of football from a certain Southwest Six football club who used to work for that particular football club also get done and get sacked by his club. But I don't think that's going to happen. For you guys who don't know that, our CEO is ex-Man City, and he's not very popular on this particular podcast.
Our new CEO is ex-Man City.
Yes. So we'll go from there. Guys, thank you very much for joining me and joining the rest of us on Full-on. Good luck with the rest of the season, as it goes in. Hoping that predictions for tonight are wrong, but we'll see how it goes. And hopefully we'll catch up with you guys before we play again later on in the season at the cottage, okay?
Yep, our
Right.
inside
Thank you.
man will be
All right.
rooting for you reluctantly.